My reaction, as well as Alicia's, if you look at our facial expressions, it is wow. We are right back at square one.
In order to have a civil society, we must have rules. There has to be, the very definition of civil society implies order.
New at 11, reaction from two important voices tonight after today's big news that the ACLU dropped a federal lawsuit against the city of Fort Wayne and police stemming from downtown protests last spring following the death of George Floyd. Good evening, everyone. I'm Linda Jackson. Tom Powell has the night off. The two sides today said they reached what they call a common ground. So, what issues did the ACLU and city find common ground on? Well, since the case was introduced in the U.S. District Court for Northern Indiana, both parties have held several meetings with the mediator where they say they were able to reach mutual understanding on certain matters. One of the main points, the Fort Wayne Police Department acknowledges that the use of chemical agents is a use of force and must be reasonable. Police also agree that whenever possible, they'll give warnings that they're about to deploy chemical agents.
It doesn't really change anything. It really just memorializes the fact that we have very good policies in place, we have good training in place, but it is really just an understanding of when and where we will use force and that we will respect people's peaceful right to protest.
But everything that we currently do, was found to be pretty effective and within state and federal law.
The city can take the stance that the city takes, and again, what I'm looking at is what this agreement says. It does say that you have the right to engage in peaceful protests. It does say that any force that is used must be reasonable.
It is important to point out that even though the ACLU is no longer seeking an injunction or any kind of court order, attorneys for the plaintiffs are still seeking damages, and that part of this case will move forward. Now, we did hear from the city and from the ACLU about today's news tonight. Hear from co-founders of the group ChangeMakers, formed in response to those protests, and from a Fort Wayne pastor who says he hopes this can somehow help the fort in the future. I send it over to reporter Vince Levergine. Vince.
Well, Linda, Pastor Dick says he was, quote, not surprised to hear the lawsuit was dropped. Now, the co-founders of ChangeMakers said they are shocked. They all said they still want change.
We are shocked. I am frustrated and very actually mad.
I don't think that anything came of that settlement at all.
The founders of ChangeMakers reacting to the federal lawsuit against the city of Fort Wayne and the police department that stemmed from last year's downtown protests being dropped. They say the newfound common ground is not enough, and they still want accountability for some actions by police officers against some protesters. They say they don't agree with City Attorney Carol Helton's assessment that the police department had good policies in place at the time.
There has been nothing that they felt was worthy enough to change in their policies.
What was the point of this? We absolutely gathered nothing from this. We didn't get anything from this. We got nowhere. There was absolutely no point.
Senior pastor at Pilgrim Baptist Church, Raymond Dix Jr., says there still needs to be clarification of a force policy for the police department.
When you don't have real structured use of force policy changes that reflect the needs of the police to be law enforcement, but the rights of the citizen, that's always going to be a tension that we got to be talking about.
Looking ahead, ChangeMakers and Pastor Dix say they want to see changes that will improve relations between police and the public.
And I just want to drive home that this conversation has to go beyond this lawsuit. And if we allow the lawsuit to end the conversation, then we're only putting off for the future another time when we may have to deal with these issues all over again.
We are really looking for accountability from the top and then therefore down to the bottom.
Well, a reminder that ACLU attorneys are still seeking damages for the plaintiffs. Now you can read more right now at FortWaynesNBC.com.